John is packing books into boxes. Each box can hold either 12 small books or 8 large books. He needs to pack at least 35 boxes and at least 360 books. Write a system of linear inequalities and graph them to model the situation. Then identify one combination that would make the system true. I need to now go through and figure out what x and y stand for. Remember that these are variables, so they have to stand for something in the word problem. So in the context of this problem, what is x and what is y? When I read this sentence again, I see it says that each box can hold either 12 small books or 8 large books. So I know I see something about boxes, something about small books, and something about large books. So boxes are kind of what I'm trying to fill, but I'm going to fill them with small books and large books. So now that leads me into what type of equations I'm going to write. So the first equation is going to be how many books I fill into the boxes. And the other equation is going to be about the number of boxes. And I know this because when I read in here, I see that it says I need to pack at least 35 boxes and at least 360 books. So when I write my first equation for how many books, I need to figure out how many small books, how many large books, and how many books in all. I also need to figure out what my keyword is. So when I read through this, I see it says he needs to pack at least 35 boxes and at least 360 books. What is the keyword that I see? It says at least 360. So remember that at least is greater than or equal to. So I know that my equation is going to have greater than or equal to 360. But now I need to figure out what goes in the front. It's always going to be something x plus something y. So if I have 12 small books, remember that small books are x, and 8 large books, I have to write my equation. 12x plus 8y greater than or equal to 360. So before I even go into finishing or to finding the other equation, I can then rewrite this one to solve it so that way when I go to graph, I already have it graphed. So the first step is to subtract 12x from both sides. So I have 8y is greater than or equal to negative 12x plus 360. And my second step is divide by 8. Y is greater than or equal to, and when I divide negative 12 by 8, I get a decimal, negative 1.5. So I don't want to use that as my slope. I can either leave my slope as negative 12 over 8, or I can always simplify my slope. So I know that both 12 and 8 are positive number or even numbers, sorry. So if I divide them both by 2, I can get negative 6 over 4. I can also divide those by 2 again, or think about 12 and 8 have 4 in common. So instead of negative 6 over 4, I can have negative 3 over 2. Negative 12 over 8 is fine, but I think that when I go to graph it, negative 12 over 8 might be a little hard to graph. And now 360 divided by 8 is 45. Again, before I move on, I want to use my inequality to help me out. This is going to be what type of line? Solid and above. So now we go down to number of boxes. If I come and look at my word problem, I've already used 8 large books, I've already used 12 small books, and I've already used 360. So the only number left is at least 35 books. We already discussed that at least means greater than or equal to 35. But what am I going to put for my inequality? I just have 1x plus 1y, or x plus y, whichever way you want to write it, because I only know about one small book and one large book because I need the number of boxes. So I'm going to now solve this one. so I can graph it as well. So first step is subtract 1x. I get 1y greater than or equal to negative 1x plus 35. I can divide everything by 1. I get y is greater than or equal to negative 1x plus 35. Before I even graph anything, again, take that inequality sign, and it is above and solid. So now that I go to graph, I notice that my graph doesn't have any numbers on it. And sometimes I need to figure out what numbers they're going to be. If I count by ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that doesn't fit because I know that this one has a starting number of 45, and this one has a starting number of 35. So instead, let's count by fives. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And that should work for both sides. Okay, so again, for my purple line, I have a start at 45. So I'm going to start here at 45. And now you can test out that slope. So if we left it as negative 8 over 12, that means I need to go down 8, or sorry, down 12 over 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I run out of space. But because I've simplified my fraction to be negative 3 over 2, I can go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 2, 1, 2. And notice that I'm putting my dots on there. Super important. You can use the line tool on Cami. Don't want it to be green though. Let's undo that. You try and get it as close as possible. But because I have those dots there, it's kind of easier for us to see what I mean. And now we have our shading. Let's make it a little bit more transparent so it's easier to see. And I need to shade above. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next one. So we are going to start at 35. And our slope is down 1 over 1. Okay, now we can draw our line, which again is going to be solid. Get as close as possible. Those dots are there to really help me out. And we will highlight. And this time again, it is above. All right, one last thing and then we're done. We now have to identify a coordinate that would work for our solution. So we can pick any coordinate as long as it's in the double shaded area. So I'm going to pick 40, 30. And that means that down here on the bottom, I'm going to fill this into my solution. I can pick 40 something. Oh man, what is my x value? What was my x value? Small books. And so my y value is large books. Ooh, save the day there. 40 small books and 30 large books. Can you find another coordinate that is a solution?